Hey, 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 welcome to this episode of The Strong and Capable. If you've been following me for 4 seasons, headed into 5, you know I don't typically do podcasts during the summer. That's not my jam. I know y'all are busy and on vacations and doing your thing. But there has been something on my heart, so deeply on my heart for months. And my sister actually told me months ago, you're going to have to do a podcast on this, And I waited and ignored her and the prompting, the thought to do it. And I waited and I waited, and it has just been bubbling up in this week in such a strong intensity that I knew the wait was over. It's time to speak. So I want to speak today about the truth about being human, the ugly truth about being human. And I'm going to try really hard not to cry and just speak truth. The thing is, being human is hard. Being really human, being out there and authentic and connecting with others, accepting them for who they are while accepting you for who you are is hard. We all want to pretend like it's easy. We want to pretend like if you're enlightened, that you just know how to do it. But the truth is we don't. The truth is it's hard to accept people who are different than you. It's hard to just be okay with it, whatever that looks like. And I'm not talking about any one specific difference. I'm talking about any difference, because we love to put things in nice little neat boxes that we can understand. The truth about being human is that we can control really nothing except for our own emotions. And even those, we have a reaction first, and then we choose from there. So the truth about being human is that everything feels out of control, but we want to control it all. And the truth about being human is that our perception is usually false. What we think is truth is very rarely true. And the truth that we know could be spoken in a totally different language, feeling, or vibe to someone else, and yet still be truth. The words we use for truth might be different than someone else. And I have learned this again and again in my life, that truth really does exist everywhere, but the language we hear it in is different. And that we have to be okay with that. That the way you hear truth with different words, different music, different culture is different than mine. That does not make your truth better or different than mine. Usually they're the same root, the same heart, the same belief, just spoken differently. And instead, we use these differences to divide us rather than seeing the beauty of the differences and uniting us. So the truth is, in April and March, I went through one of the deepest depressions I have been in a long time. Actually, the podcast stopped. For anyone following it weekly, you may or may not have noticed you were no longer getting notifications. The truth is, I could not get out of bed most days, but in order to hide it from everyone, before the boys would get home from school or my piano students would show up or my husband would call checking in, I slept all day until those things happened. And then I would jump out of bed, get dressed, and pretend like I had been doing all the things all day. But the truth was, I couldn't keep up and it was all falling apart. The truth is that I was doing all the things on top of this. I was reading my scriptures, saying my prayers, which for me is an integral part of my spiritual journey every day. I was connecting with people. I was exercising an hour long most mornings. Like I said, I would do the thing and then I'd go back to bed. I was eating very healthy, very clean. And despite all the check boxes, all the check marks, my mental health and emotional health tanked. And ironically, during this time, as we're headed into May Mental Health Awareness Month, I couldn't get myself together enough to even promote mental health. And the crazy part about it was that also during this time, I had so many of you even, but listeners to the podcast, followers on Instagram and Facebook reach out to me and tell me I was inspiring, that I was on a roll, that they could see how I was doing good things. I hadn't posted on social media or a podcast in over a month. And it really taught me a lot about perception versus reality, other people's perception, because I understood my perception and what was happening. But to everyone else, I looked like I was thriving. I didn't post anything on social media in a month, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. People didn't see that. It taught me that we see each other from a 50,000-foot view. Even the joy and the suffering, we don't fully understand. We could never understand what someone is going through, especially with social media today. We don't understand. We really can't. And perception is reality. So our reality about most people is wrong. That's the truth about being human, is our perception, our reality, how we believe other people to be, is wrong. You do not know anyone as well as you think you do. You don't, because all of us want so badly to be successful, to overcome, that we hide away from the people we love, from the people on social media, from the people at work or in our communities. We hide away the hard parts, the dark parts, the unsure parts of ourselves. And so they can never perceive our reality for what it is. That's the truth about being human, is our perception is never actually reality. The other thing I learned is that suffering is lonely, because no one can perceive who you are, really who you are and what you're going through. Then you will always feel alone in your suffering, because no one can understand your suffering as you are feeling it. Unless you believe in a divine God and a Jesus Christ who suffered, or something of that belief or along those lines, you are alone. You are alone. And I can tell you, when you're struggling with mental health, a belief in those things feels unreachable and impossible. When I am in depression, it doesn't matter how many times I tell myself I'm not alone. I feel alone. Loneliness is consuming. So much of the world feels lonely. There are studies out there saying that in the marketplace, in companies, in corporations, over 55% of people say they are lonely. Connection is being lost, and then they're suffering. With a loss of connection and suffering, it is lonely. So to be human is to know loneliness. Not all the time. I hope I'm not lonely all the time, and I hope you aren't either. But it's to know it. And anyone who seems like they don't know it, again, your view is not correct. Everyone knows it. And to be human means it takes time to heal, to recover, to build back. When you are sick, let's say you get a long-term sickness and you're in bed, your muscles will start to disintegrate and your body will get weak. Even a week in bed changes your physical body. That's why in hospitals, even they have to roll them and move them and ask for them to move and walk around as much as possible, because doctors understand this. Our bodies deteriorate quickly. Our soul and our mental health are the same. Things deteriorate quickly. And to be strong and to build back to where you maybe were after suffering a loss takes time. So I suffered depression in April and March, and here we are July, and I just barely feel like I'm maybe starting to be me again. It's taken so much grace and patience and love to get to this point, by me and by others. And I'm going to tell you, if you're lonely, if you're suffering, you know what ended my suffering or began the journey of ending it? It was to speak up. The day that I finally told my daughter and my sisters, I am not okay, was the day that I became a little better. When you are suffering with depression or anxiety, you cannot do it alone. You need someone to say, I see you. How are you? I love you. You need people to verify your emotions because your brain and your mind, your thoughts, they're not going to help you on this. If you're truly suffering, it's all negative and hard, and you need that outside person to say, I see you. It is. So when you're suffering, do not do it alone. Tell somebody, even telling someone will help you not feel alone. I started recently these little reels and I have a board and they're just affirmations. So you can't see the board and I say it with me and I flip the board and I am loved, I am worthy, I am kind, I can do hard things, I am strong and capable, I am learning. I love I am statements because they are the root of who we are. One of my sisters sent me a little social media post after she saw what I was doing with the board and it was the chakras and the statements that go with the chakras, and that the I am is the root chakra, and that each chakra has different things like I feel, I know, I can, I will. It's versus I am. And it was interesting because it was all good information. And honestly, when you feel the pressure to create as a creator, I could have a million I affirmations like I am, I can, I will, I feel, I learn. But the second that I have to create, my brain's like blank. So I was thankful for her sending that because it reminded me of all the affirmations I could be saying at the time when I needed it. But she sent me this, and I don't know what her intention was, but for me, it was so verifying. The I am is the root chakra. The I am is the root of who you are. I am is your belief in self. And so, with that thought, I just want to add self. I want to have a mini discussion on self. When you are in a lonely place, when you're in a hard place, which is all the time for a lot of people right now, we are having a backlash from separation and COVID, and our emotional resilience and intelligence is so low. It is a pandemic of its own. And yet people aren't even understanding. They're just feeling these intense things. And this is part of why I wanted to get on here and share, is because A, you're not alone. But B, what do? Well, in the secular world, they're going to focus on I am, self-love, self-care, self-awareness, self. And I had a podcast episode, I believe it was season 3, with Lisa to Hear. And one of the things she said is, if we could just take out self, we would be so much better. Selfish, self-aware, self-love, self-grace, self-kindness, self-hate, self-loathing. They take out the word self, and it gives us such a clear picture of what's really happening here. So I invite all of you to take out self, to affirm who you are, your identity, but then take out all the other self and just doing self-care, just doing self-love. So when you focus on self constantly, it's not healthy. And then the truth is, humans are not meant to be self alone. I say this affirmation a lot. I accept myself unconditionally right now. Or I accept myself unconditionally exactly as I am right now. And one of the things I've learned is that's not always true. I don't always accept myself unconditionally as I am right now. But I can give myself grace for who I am and where I am right now, understanding that there is growth. So that affirmations have power until you grow beyond them. And then you get to a deeper truth and a deeper knowledge. And the deeper knowledge is that I do accept myself for this journey I'm currently on. But that's not enough for me. I want more. I want more. I want to be with, right? Like I am living Ariel right here. It's not enough. And not enough is because I'm alone. When you are alone, so focused on self, there's a time to pull back and heal. But when you're alone and it's in a selfish place, not a healing place, then you're just alone. And you get angry. When you're in that selfish place, it will bring on feelings of bitterness and anger and frustration. But when you're alone in a healing place, you'll heal and then you will come out stronger and more loving and you will be seeking connection. A healed person seeks connection. Humans, so this is another human truth. Humans are meant to connect. We're meant to focus as one another, how we can grow and evolve and learn and become. We're meant to become this, we're tribal by nature. We're not meant to be solo by ourselves. We are meant to understand when we need time to pause and reset, but we're not meant to live this journey alone. And living it alone by doing self-love, self-care, self, it will be lonely. I'm hoping you're hearing what I'm saying, that there is a difference in being selfish, the ish, versus being aware, awake, loving, kind, forgiving. There are different words associated. And when it comes to self-love, it is often associated with vacations, nail, fancy house, big shopping, spending trips. These things I just named, how do they heal you? How do they fill you? How do they connect you? Because the hard stuff will come and people are going to see you from a 50,000-foot view. And so they're not going to know it. They're not going to see it until you cry out for help. And by then, you will have been gone, far gone for a while. And I don't want you to live there anymore. I don't want you to do what I did. I don't want you to be stuck in that place. And the way we do that is through connection, human connection. That's the truth about being human, is that we need each other, that we need connection. And then one other thing is, I actually sent this to my sister. I said, each type of affirmation holds its own power. Most people are uncomfortable with saying them at all. So learn who you are. That is what affirmations are about, is learning who you are and claiming that with joy and with excitement for who you're going to become next. This is why it's important for us to set the example of what it looks like, to say them, to be them, to claim things. I'm always surprised when I say, I'm learning, or I just love myself, or I'm funny. I'll say things about myself and people look at me like, what? Because it's not normal to say positive things about yourself. It makes people uncomfortable. But I'm not focused on bragging about it. I'm claiming it. There's a difference. And then said, positive affirmations empower us and enlighten us. Negative ones diminish us and divide us. So when you're talking to yourself, know that you are not meant to be alone. And anytime you're talking to yourself negatively, you're going to isolate, diminish, and divide. If you're talking to yourself positively, you're going to lift, you're going to expand, and you're going to connect. There is a big difference. Pay attention how you are talking to yourself. Reach out for connection. Lysa TerKeurst is one of my favorite, this uninvited book changed my world, and I think I gotta listen to it again. But she says, it's impossible to hold up the banners of victim and victory at the same time. You are meant to be a victor, but you're not going to be one every day or every moment. And just because you're not the victor in the morning doesn't mean you can't be in the afternoon. We're meant to transform, but transforming is uncomfortable. And that's the other human truth. Transformation, we don't like it. And yet our very natures demand that we transform. Every part of our cells and our biology is constantly in movement, constantly transforming to a new phase, new stage, repeated over and over again. We are meant to transform, and yet we fight it so desperately because we want to be comfortable. My friends, you're not meant to be comfortable. And going through hard things is uncomfortable, and yet it's human. I think what I have learned most over this last 3 years, 4 seasons, is that we don't accept the human journey. to struggle, to be alone, to fight, to love, to forgive, to transcend. We don't accept it. We fight it. And those who have become the person you admire, even if they're imperfect, because they are imperfect, let's just state that, they've had to go through a lot to become that person. There is no one worthy of admiration that has not gone through hell and back. So the people that you admire understand that they know what it's like to be human. They don't know what it's like to be you, but they know what it's like to be human. So if you're struggling, start with affirmations. Take out the word self out of things, because invoking self-love and self-whatever, just say love, healing, awareness, acceptance. I am learning to accept who I am, where I am right now, is one of the most true and powerful statements that I could say any given day and every given day. I am learning. You are learning. We are learning together. And just know what you see on social media for any given person is probably not true. It's not true. It's a curated false reality. So that doesn't mean successes aren't happening. It's just a false reality. So be careful what you say to someone, even as you think you're encouraging them or lifting them up. And then be careful of social media. I guess is my last warning. If you're looking for tips to heal or to transform as you are living this human experience, because I don't even know that it's about healing. I think it's about transforming. You experience the thing. So how are you going to transform from what that moment created in you and of you? How are you going to transform? What is your next stage of evolution? I think that's the bigger picture here. And we get stuck in semantics and tools in our tool belt. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about transformation. So what are you meant to transform into? What is your next stage of evolution? Ask yourself that. Meditate on it, pray on it, ponder it. Who are you meant to be next? What is the next step in your personal human journey? And if you are suffering and struggling right now, then the next step is healing, learning, resting, seeking. These are the words that will help you transform. If you are already in those places, then the next place is connecting, empowering, teaching, growing. Do you see that? No matter where you are, there is a next evolution. There will always be a next evolution. So where are you and what does that equal? That is the question I would leave you with. And then once you identify where you are, make specific action plans. I noticed really quickly, as soon as I reached out, I could see clearly the patterns that were hurting me. And the patterns were social media, honestly. Every time I got on social media, I saw so much sarcasm, so much anger, so much hurt, so much pride and ego. And it hurt me. When I was struggling, it hurt me. So I had to stay off social media and not even get on it at all, not even a little bit. So that was for me personally the thing. So when you're looking at healing, look at what is affecting you negatively and remove it. Immediately remove it. Doesn't mean you can't get back on. I'm back on social media and all the things, but remove it immediately. Ask where you are, ask what you need to remove, reach out and connect to others so that you are not alone. And the last thing I've just got to end with is this. When I was in my darkest moment was also when my family was in the Mesa Easter pageant. And so I would be remiss if I did not say from the bottom of my heart, the only thing that pulled me through that time was God. You have to know spiritually who you are and what your beliefs are. I believe in a loving God, and I was acting out every night in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people the story of Jesus Christ. Getting up every day to act that out and to be present was the only thing that got me up. It's the only reason I pretended for my husband and my kids that everything was okay, was because I knew I had to show up for that. And that thing was so filling and so loving that it helped me get through the next day and the next day and the next day until I was filled with just enough strength that I could stand on my own 2 feet and ask for help for a little bit. So the last thing is, please know who you are on a spiritual level. You cannot go through dark times without having some base knowledge. I'm not going to tell you what that is. I know what my truths are. If you want to hear them, you can go to my other podcast with the 5 wonderful Connected in Christ ladies. It launches this September and is literally 5 women, 1 mission, and that is to preach Jesus, to share Jesus with the world, all different backgrounds. And I'm not doing, I know this sounds like a plug for that, but I didn't mean to. What I want you to understand is if you want to know the truth of my truth, that's where you can go. But what I want you to do more than anything is understand your truth, because I know from many years' experience and speaking with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men and women that we all hear truth differently. And the language that speaks to me may not be the language that speaks to you, but you need to know your spiritual language. You need to find it, and you need to go all in on that so strongly that when life knocks you down, it can be your lifeline to pull you out. That's what this was for me. That's what the pageant provided. And I will forever be thankful, because if I hadn't had that, I think this would have been a lot worse. But I didn't mean my burdens weren't gone, but they were lighter because I had that deep knowledge of who I am. So friends, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you know that being human isn't pretty. It's beautiful. It's not pretty. It's beautiful. Being human is so multifaceted and multidimensional. I don't think our human brains can even comprehend a fraction of what this experience really is like. And so maybe you don't accept yourself unconditionally right now, but maybe you're learning to, like I am. And maybe you're learning to let go of self and just be loving, be accepting, be kind, be respectful, be thoughtful and intentional with your time and your energy and your talents and everything you have. Be so intentional. Be accepting, be curious, learn about others and love them. Take out self and just be. You can do this, friends. I would love to hear what helped you, what didn't help you. If you have any more questions on seeking in search of self, right? Like, I think there's a book called that, In Search of Self. But just be curious, be learning, always be growing. And never forget, even in your darkest moments, when you feel like all is lost, that's just not true. You are strong and capable. You've been through things. They show you that you know how to overcome, that you know who's there for you and who's not. Find who you are if you are lost again, because we get lost and found a million times in this lifetime. So find it again. Stand on that. Stand tall on that. Love others, and you're strong and capable. You got this. You so got this. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. I hope you know that life isn't perfect, but it's incredibly beautiful. I hope that, this season's going to be good, guys. Going into season 5, it is overcome. And we're seeking stories of people who have overcome, because that is a journey we all do every day in small ways and sometimes in huge ways. So if you know someone who's overcome something and they're just, man, they're your hero, let me know. I want to get them on the podcast.